This video contains flashing lights. Viewer discretion advised.
In the modern era of gaming, the NES is best remembered as the console that began a shining new gaming empire for Nintendo in the wake of the 80s market crash. But to those of us who have played its games, we recall our first memories exploring the land of Hyrule, jumping through the Mushroom Kingdom, or facing off against deadly space pirates. Not to mention the various other infamous titles we either remember fondly or not. Let's go back in time as the team shares our personal experiences with the top 14 NES games flashback with the TatsTopVideos staff. Double Dragon 2 is a beat-em-up game that follows the story of the first game, but in this one, Marion gets killed, and so the Lee brothers sort out revenge on the gang. And
the main premise is your girlfriend's been stolen by big evil, in big quotes, and you have to basically Streets of Rage your way through the streets and beat up everyone who gets in the way.
Hardest level in the game for me, probably the Mansion of Terror, because that is just unforgivable. Very few enemies in that level, but you need like perfect jumping tactics, because the platforms disappear, and if you fail once, that's it, you lose a life completely. I really don't know why they added that level in the game, probably for challenge, but it's really unfair.
Hardest level. That's an interesting one, because anything past like stage 2, especially on the hard difficulty, gets ridiculously difficult. Chippendale took a rather minimalist but novel approach in that it recognises that as a chipmunk, you are basically powerless against anything that you face. A lot of the time, you don't actually defeat enemies, you just evade them. But it makes use of the picking up of the blocks and the tossing them to solve puzzles, as well as deal with significantly more deadly foes.
I like the level design really in this game, because it was bright and colourful. The levels, the locales were really well detailed, but I like the fact that there was a lot of challenge involved. Lots of objects can be picked up, thrown at enemies. The music was really good in this game too.
This was one of my first encounters with a beat 'em up in my life, like video game wise, where I was like, oh, okay, so you just run around and beat stuff up. Like, you know, there were plenty of games that were before then, but this one was my first one. And I thought it was cool because it was exactly what it was trying to be to me, which was like Ninja Turtles and stuff that was cool to me at the time, and Ninja Turtles are still cool, and Battletoads is still cool, so I guess it kind of worked in the end.
Visuals are really charming, and it's like a cartoony style game. You beat the crap out of everyone that crosses your way, or you get beaten up by everyone.
Worst level, I would say Volkmar Inferno. The reason why I say that is because you're flying on jets, and you need like perfect reflexes to go through these sort of laser traps, and it gets faster and faster. It's just really difficult. If people are saying hover bikes is difficult, this is just really hard.
It was level 9, if I'm correct. Like, you're being chased by at some point you're chased by a sort of gear, and it's really annoying because there are lots of spikes. When you're going down, you have to make precise jumps. Also, the water kind of slows you down a lot, so it's kind of annoying.
Honestly, I didn't even get to that one because, again, I was young. I was like, I had to have been, I don't know, maybe like close to around the 3s and like 5s. So it's like I didn't even make it to the turbo tunnel. Because at that point I wasn't really focused on beating the game. It was the concept that I was able to control something on the screen and like affect the world around me, which was beating the crap out of stuff, which was great. So it wasn't like, oh, I need to beat this level, oh, I need to beat the game, I need to get the high score. I was like, oh, I punched something, that's cool.
I did not beat Battletoads, no. I got to Rat Race, I think, where you have to beat this rat to the bomb, but I could never beat it. And even with doing the rewind feature in Rare Replay, I still could not beat it, because the rat would disappear off the screen, so you had no idea how far he was to the bomb, which made save stating a bit difficult to do.
Yeah, I did.
No, never. I still haven't beaten it as an adult. I haven't had a chance to pick it up again.
You play as Scrooge McDuck, and you travel across the globe to capture, if I remember correctly, 5 treasures.
I kind of like Transylvania, but I'm probably gonna say like most people are gonna say, and that is the moon. Cannot underestimate the music in that level. It's so good.
Definitive moon level. Mainly because of the music.
Oh, it's got to be the moon. The moon was always it's a classic. I mean, the soundtrack alone, it's just so incredibly memorable. Everybody loves it.
I like the simple premise, like most enemies in the game can be like jumped on with the cane, but it like acts like a pogo stick. And you can walk up to objects and whack them like a golf club, and they go flying and hitting enemies and other things. That's a really cool gimmick. But the fact is that you could go back to any of these levels you really wanted to and keep getting more and more money and diamonds and whatnot. So there's a little bit of more incentive to just keep going back and playing and leveling up more.
Honestly, just the entire aesthetic. I've always loved, the kind of Indiana Jones style treasure hunting aesthetic. I loved it ever since I was younger. My dad showed me Raiders of the Lost Ark when I was honestly way too young to have watched Raiders of the Lost Ark. If I were to direct DuckTales 2, I would go ahead and bring in the new voice actors from I think it was 2017 version of the DuckTales animated series, because I think, for one, David Tennant, if I remember correctly, does a phenomenal job of Scrooge McDuck. There are so many, and I always forget the name, and I feel like crap, because they're all phenomenal voice actors, they're great comedians, everything like that. But I think that would be fantastic, because again, I love all the new voices of the characters. So to put them in would be great.
Well, Ninja Gaiden it's another platforming game from the NES era. The game was based around, you play as Ryu Hayabusa, whose father was killed. Well, I say killed. He was defeated by I think it was an assassin or another ninja, and you inherit his ancestral sword.
Ninja Gaiden was a pretty interesting game. It was the side-scroll 'em up game, but it was like super fast.
Maybe somewhat similar to Contra in some things, but the difficulty being several levels higher.
I remember the game being confusing because it wasn't called Ninja Gaiden in our country. It was actually called Shadow Warrior for some weird reason. Okay, but in general, what I remember most is being flung back 50 feet when I got hit by an enemy, and falling into pits, and respawning enemies. That was a pain.
Monstrous difficulty. This game had really weird mechanics for spawning enemies in the worst possible places, and whoever came up with the bloody eagles that show up in the game needs to be ravaged by those eagles.
I never beat the game, no. I got to like the second to last level, and then like if you fail at any point and get a game over, you're thrust back to like this other part again. You gotta do that all over again. It was really, really like a kick in the gut for that.
If I'm honest, I never defeated it.
No, I came very close to beating the game. The final boss is a 3-stage boss fight, and I managed to defeat the first stage and fight the second stage, but I could not get past the second stage of the boss fight, because even if you lose a life on the boss, regardless of if you have any more lives left, you're sent right back to the start.
The Ninja Turtles. Okay, so let me tell you something. I was huge into Ninja. Me and my cousin were huge into Ninja Turtles in the 90s. Like that was almost our main. That was our main, pretty much, where it was just Ninja Turtles and maybe other stuff on the side, or yeah, we're all about other stuff, but it was Ninja Turtles. Not sure why, but it was. But I can also say why, because it's cool. They're turtles. They're beating up people. They have swords and.
So, admittingly, this one was the one I played the least. However, I actually had the most fun with. I didn't really get the story too much, but I don't think back then the story was really the focus. The overworld was weirdly enough difficult for me to actually kind of get around. But as far as I knew, I was just replaying levels over and over again, honestly.
But you do have the actual option to play as one of the 4 titular turtles, which were never turtles, they were tortoises, by the way. And you just had to basically make it through the stage, like from the usual, from left to right. And that was pretty much it. But then there were a few occasions where it would be like from top view, and it wouldn't even be platforming, it would also be swimming.
A lot of people who've played this game would say that the dam sequence is the hardest level, and I would agree if it wasn't for the fact that we have the likes of Technodrome's stage. The Technodrome stage has some really tight corridors, lots of enemies flying at you from all directions, and in many cases it's really difficult to avoid taking monstrous damage.
A lot of people are going to say the dam is one of the toughest levels, but for me, I'd say it's when you get to the base level. This is the one where you're like near the Foot Clan, and you go into these tunnels and you're fighting these really, really difficult enemies. There's just 2 types. There's this hedgehog one, and then there's other thin one, and you don't know what you don't know where the exit is because you're trying to find the Technodrome. So it could be under any of these random points in the game. Also, I'd say the Technodrome itself was quite difficult. Yeah.
So like I said, I was really bad at games when I was a little kid. They were all hard to me, and it was a miracle if I got past them. So I guess it was maybe the one I couldn't get past, which was like the 4th level. I have no idea which one that would be, but...
Oh yeah, water levels. I'm like a lot of other people. I'm not good with water levels. Whether that be Mario or, in case, Ninja Turtles, Echo the Dolphin, which is one giant water level. Let me tell you. I think it's a common equation with the devs at the time, where it's just like, okay, they've already learned. All right, it's time to throw you to the wolves.
One of them being the swimming levels, just that there was such narrow pathways, and the blooming seaweed. I just thought that the seaweed was the hardest part to get past.
No, I never beat the game, but I did witness my dad beat the game, so props to him. He sat there from like start to finish and beat the game. And yeah, it's not one of those games that have checkpoints or passwords in, so you literally have to sit there from start to finish and beat it.
Legitimately, no.
Oh yeah, no, I never beat. Yeah, I barely got past level 4 or 5.
No, but I'll do a bonus question. Who's my favorite turtle? Leonardo. That, and I like the 2 katanas, so. Favorite weapon, favorite turtle, favorite color, blue.
In the original Legend of Zelda, the camera was top down, but in Adventure of Link, it still retains the top down view, but that's only when you're in the map or hub world. When you enter a palace or a cave, the camera switches to this sort of side scrolling, and that's where the game gets really difficult.
It was a big game, that's for stars, and the other, you get to explore towns and talk to people, and the enemies were quite challenging.
Legend of Zelda, the second game, is a little bit more unique because it reminds me a lot of Pokemon. If the random encounters were more perceptible and potentially even avoidable. But I do remember that I thought it was a lot better because I liked the side-scrolling sections a lot more than I did the overworld stuff. That's why I mostly played that game as opposed to the original.
Most different thing would be that it's 2D instead of top-down and RPG-ish elements in it.
But the thing about the game is that you can level up, which is something that the other game didn't do. So the more enemies you defeat, the more points you get, so you can basically upgrade your health, attack, and magic, which will benefit you in the long run when you get to some of the harder levels.
The thing that I remember most about Shadow Link is that I used to be very terrible at video games, and I was never able to beat him. So one of the things that I had to do, unfortunately, was pay my older brother physical money to get past him.
This game gives you like no indication of where to go sometimes, and you'd have to figure out that you'd have to travel to this one town, speak to this one NPC that looks identical to all the other NPCs, and he'll open the way to the next level. I did come across one NPC called Error, and at the time I thought it was just a problem with the game. I didn't know that was the name of the NPC. I didn't actually beat the game, but I did witness my dad beat the game, because the last boss is Shadow Link.
If you're asking if I ever beat it, nah, never.
I have not.
No, again, this was at the friend's house, and I was like, this sucks, I want to play Castlevania.
Like Contra, I have not.
Castlevania is about this guy, this guy from the Belmont family going to kill Dracula because he's just been messing things up again.
Or He-Man, for that example. Going around and whipping Dracula. I mean, there's a real story to be found. There certainly might have been in the manual, but I didn't read that.
My experience with the game is based on more recent years, but even then, I think the game is pretty damn difficult in general terms, and some or many enemies are more easy to deal with. There's just some in there that just annoy the hell out of me. It just varies a lot depending on the enemy itself.
I'd say the Medusa heads, and I'd also like to say the bridge when you have to get to Dracula's room, because you have these like giant vampire bats, and they can knock you immediately into the abyss.
Well, my annoying moment was that I had to leave from my friend's house where I was playing it.
I mean, death was... I couldn't really ever get past death, and then I'd say screw this and stop playing.
The second boss, as I haven't gotten any further than that, I'm bad at NES.
The boss that I had the hardest time with is the Mummy Twins. They annoy me even more than Death himself.
Death, I'd say, is my hardest boss. Just very simple boss, but the amount of projectiles that come out, you have to be really on your toes when you fight him.
Contra is a side-scroller shoot-'em-up game in which you can shoot at 9 directions, but only one at a time. Like, you can shoot like to the front of the character, to the back. You can crouch and dodge bullets, and it's a really hard game because at the same time that most enemies die at one hit, you also die at one hit.
So Contra is this game where you play as like two buff dudes and go onto the island and need to shoot all these bad guys, and that's all I remember from Contra. But the thing was, in Europe it was called Probotech, and they replaced all the human enemies with robots. So I didn't really know about this until I got the internet.
Contra is a run and gun type of game where you have enemies all over the screen, while again you're trying to go from A to B.
Favorite weapon, I'd say definitely the spread gun, and I'm pretty sure my team will say the same thing. That gun was so overpowered and so broken, but it was like so awesome.
Without a doubt, the spread gun. The spread gun it covers so much area, does so much damage. Doing it against bosses, it shreds them in no time because of 5 hits.
Yeah, I think laser and spray gun are equally my favorites.
Yeah, the spread shot.
I really do like the spread shot because it has a wide range.
I forgot what it was called, but basically the weapon that shoots out triple lasers or triple guns. Yes.
There wasn't too many hard bosses in Contra, but I think the ones I kind of had trouble with was the ones where you're in the bases and you're fighting a giant eye or 2 robot heads. And I think because the camera is different, it's not like the other levels, they could throw you off.
Honestly, the final will constantly spam out like an infinite amount of aliens that are just gonna surround you. With the spread gun, it's not too bad, but if you somehow die, then you are severely screwed facing against that thing.
Yeah, it's like this xenomorph alien. It was really hard. Like, I barely even killed it at times.
The most challenging one that I might have died a couple times from was the 3rd boss.
Yes, I did beat Contra. I didn't really need the 30 lives cheat either, but it was a challenge, but I still did beat Contra.
I did, honestly though, with Konami Code, I did not beat it 3 lives because I don't know anyone who could beat that game with just 3 lives, at least not off my memory, not any of my closest friends could. But I think the Konami Code makes that game more bearable, but yes, I have beaten Contra.
Yeah, luckily I beat the game like out of lots of times. I just beat it like 10 maybe.
I have not beaten the game since the latest stage I could get up to was the 4th game. I have to find my NES to play, or I could just play on an emulator.
No, I got very close. Very close. Was playing with a friend, co-op.
The first Metroid game is based on, I'm not sure I'm going to get this right, the planet Zebes, where you play as the bounty hunter Metroid, and your primary goal is to defeat the space pirates and their evil overlord Mother Brain.
But basically, it's a long maze-like game where you're able to tackle it in any way you want to, and yeah, it's fun. You get upgrades, you go back, you go forward, and the more upgrades you get, the better it is to, traverse. It's actually, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Metroid, I gotta say that Metroid is pretty cool for a game.
I didn't play an insane amount of it, but I played a little bit I really liked the theme. The music worked really well with the levels and the whole appearance. You had aliens, and it wasn't like cartoony aliens too. This was like serious sci-fi. Like everything looked freaky, and I liked that because I was always a kid who was fascinated by stuff that scared me. It was scary, and I was pulling away from it, but it also interested me. What about it is scary? And then before you know it stopped being as scary, and then I was able to actually probe. So I was loving the whole aesthetic of the aliens looking horrific, and they weren't humanoid, they weren't cute little aliens that said stuff. No, these were biomass of freakiness.
I remember getting lost a lot in this game because, again, the game gives you really no map. There's not really indication of where to go in it. Every place looks the same in this game, apart from when you go to, say, Norfair or Brinstar. But One thing that really irritated me with this game is when you go through those bubble doors and the enemy can like launch a surprise attack and there's nothing you can do about it. You literally take a cheap hit when you go through those doors.
Well, what I remember most is how confused I was because I was so used to Metroid Zero Mission having a map, and there was no map, and I was just like, I just got so lost. Back then I didn't really take notes of maps, and even then I still don't do that.
The thing I remember most about the game is what it's probably most known for is the Metroidvania aspect, which is it's just one giant map that you will work your way through, going back and forth as you gain more powers to gain access to new areas. So rather than sort of a linear progress of stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, it's literally just, here's this map, here's another section of the map. As you get more abilities, you get access to more areas, and you can defeat the bosses to get access to more areas and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the music, the flipping, yeah, turning into a ball. It was the movements, because I'd never seen movements like that in a game where it's like, oh, you jump and you do all those flips. Yeah.
The thing is that I could not read when I played this game. So a lot of it was just me kind of bumbling around, not knowing necessarily what to do, but having fun bumbling around anyway.
Yes, I did beat the game. I did beat it, and I thought it was pretty awesome actually that Samus was a woman, because at the time there wasn't really many video game protagonists that were women, so I was actually really impressed.
I was really surprised. I mean, I was quite young at the time when that happened, so I wasn't really aware of the disconnect between like female protagonists and male protagonists at the time. But it was really surprising to sort of reach the end and sort of be like, oh, I'm playing as a woman.
YouTube started coming out, and like AVGN and informational YouTubers were coming out with these games, and they were like, oh, at the end when you find out Samus is a girl, and I was like, huh, that's actually pretty interesting because it's something different. You're used to a big macho hunk, Duke Nukem kind of character at the end, and it was just cool to see something else. Which thankfully now it's a common thing now today to have a female protagonist. So
I never got far enough to see that. To be real, the only times I saw that happen was from YouTube videos. I never saw it for myself, unfortunately.
Now, I don't want to be sexist in any way, but when you are a 5-year-old kid and you think girls are icky, it kind of disappoints you when you learn that it's a girl you've been playing as this whole time. I think she's rad now, but back then, I was devastated. Could not play the game again.
I think this was the first Mega Man game I've played, and once you learn the pattern, bosses are actually a lot of fun to fight.
Mega Man 2 was the only game I found to get, and it's the most popular one. But I think the most notable difference is variety of weapons that you get, because like in every Mega Man game, after you beat a boss, you obtain their weapon.
And once you defeat those and gain their powers, you then chase down Wily to his fortress and fight your way through it to defeat him and save the world, as every protagonist did back in the day.
My favorite power-up? I think the Saw one.
Definitely Metal Blade. I mean, there's a reason that one's the neutral in Smash. I
want to say the Circle Blade, whatever it's called. Saw Blade, yeah.
I think the one that stood out the most to me was probably the Crash Bomb. Mostly because not only was it quite a powerful weapon, as well as a weapon for a very, very specific boss, but it also had some utility in that it could destroy some walls that you couldn't get through. I've just found it quite enjoyable.
Hardest level for me, I'd say, is probably Heatman stage. because not only is there lots of like instant death lava pits, but you have these enemies that keep coming out the tubes continuously, and don't even get me started on the block puzzle part where you have to time your jumps perfectly on each platform. If you didn't have that second ability to just bypass that, you could be there for a long time.
Oh, definitely Fireman stage. I cannot stress how difficult it was to get those disappearing blocks. And there was one in particular that I just can't seem to get over, and it's the one where you have to quickly jump on top of one to the side and then one above it, because if you're too slow, the block appears above you and you can't jump. Yep, that one tripped me up so much.
Dr. Willow's, like, it was Willow or Will? I don't know. Will, yeah. So it was like the final boss, basically. The whole going into the thingy. I barely remember anything about it because I always like got killed in it.
The level has some invisible holes in it. So basically, all the background textures are as they would be, but some of the floors, there isn't like an actual floor there, so you just fall through the textures, which is like part of a trap. But the only way you'd know it was there is if you already knew it was there.
Sad to say, the second level for Dr. Wily.
I never actually beat Mega Man 2. I think I got to like the third to last level, and it's this one part that you have to jump down this long fall, and you have to narrow yourself perfectly, because if you hit the sides, that's it.
I did actually, and it was like the first time I beat the game, I straight up jumped out of my chair out of excitement. And I was with some other friends and we were eating pizza. Because I was so excited, I accidentally kicked the table with my knee. Most of the pizza fell on the floor, and it was a moment of excitement and depression for me.
No, I haven't beat it. Of course not.
I did not, thanks to that level.
Yes, I have beaten the game legit numerous times when I was younger, and again these days in the collection forms, to the point where I often challenge myself to not use a boss's weakness or to avoid using certain powers, such as the time stop path or quick man stage.
Duck Hunt's pretty much just a game where you connect this toy gun to the NES that's connected to the TV, and by just sorcery of magic, you just shoot pixel ducks as many as you can within the time frame.
Duck Hunt is what I would call the first game that taunted you, because if you didn't hit every duck, that dog would laugh at you, and you always hated that dog.
If you guys think that the Duck Hunt controllers don't exactly hold up well because most of them aren't really functioning anymore, well, I like to chew on the wires for some reason. Like, I had this huge oral fixation, and my mom nearly kicked my ass because I ate the wire for the Duck Hunt controller while I was bored and also frustrated with the game. So I didn't get to play a lot of Duck Hunt, but I do remember eating a controller.
I mean, the game was fairly simplistic. There isn't much diversity outside of like shooting the ducks. The closest thing to a memorable moment I would have is just seeing the dog just sort of perk up and laugh at you as you fail.
I remember there was a really popular urban legend involving that game where you could shoot the dog, because a lot of people hate the Duck Hunt dog. I remember a really persistent rumor that if you somehow got to stage 99, you'd be able to shoot the dog.
I remember that I pressed the zapper right up to the screen and I still missed.
Clay pigeon shooting, yes, I prefer, mainly because you don't have to worry about the dog laughing at you if you miss.
Yeah, so this is something that a lot of people don't remember about Duck Hunt, is the clay pigeon shooting bit. I kind of preferred the duck hunt part of it. Not that I didn't like the clay pigeon shooting. I think I just felt more at home with the duck shooting side of it.
There were clay pigeons in that game? I didn't realize. What? Wait, what third option? I don't think mine had that. I think mine was just the shoot ducks. Yeah, no, I had no idea. You know what it was? Maybe the reason it was bundled was more like a trial cartridge or something like that. Like, hey, here's Duck Hunt. Just try it. I don't know. But then again, why did I have the gun controllers?
Honestly, both are fun in their own right. I think that the duck hunting portion is a little bit more responsive because it seems like the clay pigeon section, it doesn't seem like it works for me all the time. But they both have their own merit.
I prefer duck shooting. It was slightly easier to me.
Well, I duck shooting probably because like they're colorful and cool, and I didn't know what a clay pigeon was. I didn't know what clay was. I stuck with what I knew, you know.
I mainly only messed with the duck part of the game.
Yes, I would shoot that dog. He was such a jerk.
Maybe once, because, you know, you shouldn't laugh at your owner.
Yes, that doesn't. I do love dogs, but that particular dog can like stop laughing at me because of my failure.
Absolutely.
I tried it once, but then I was like, oh, that's too mean. I just found it kind of funny that it was laughing at me. I'm like, damn, okay, I gotta do better. He's telling me to get good.
Of course. I spent hours shooting him. I was convinced that you could penetrate his armor by doing something.
Probably not, because it's mainly my own fault, unless the game messes up.
Well, Punch-Out is, in the very literal sense, a beat-em-up game where you play as Little Mac, compared to the other boxers, an average-sized person who is trying to work his way up the boxing league to be world champion.
Basically, you play as this new kid named Little Mac, and you take down a bunch of these professional boxers from all around the world, all the way to Mike Tyson, where you try to see if you could take him down.
So you got to wait for their attacks to go out, dodge, and strike them. And depending on both, you know, what boss it is and what attack they use, or if you can sneak in a punch or two in between their strings, the stun duration varies, and you know how many hits you can get in.
One of the few things I pretty much liked was that the move triggers that happen just before a punch happens, mostly from the opponents. There's like a flickering or a moving body part that you have to dodge in order to get an advantage. I kind of liked it.
I like all the different wacky opponents you have to beat. Also has different ways of beating them.
I like that it was kind of the Nintendo universe, like it was an embodiment, or like it just reeked of Nintendo. Exactly, and I don't know, it just had a Nintendo charm to it. The music, you know, the characters, the fact that, again, punching people, that's always a plus whenever you're playing a game. If you can punch people, you pretty much, at that time, if you can punch people, you probably had me sold. And that's still the case today for the most part.
I like how you dodge left and right, and then you try to, like, it doesn't let you go off easy when fighting the boxers usually. Like, some boxers you fight will have their own unique strengths, weaknesses, and you gotta try to figure out which one is which while you stay alive. So it's more like a survival type of game, and I liked it. Also, I noticed Mario, or that Mario-looking referee, is there. And the coach is pretty cool, too. After I fought the guy that's underwear keeps falling down, yeah, it got a little challenging up there. And there was at one point where I reached Mike Tyson and I got killed after one hit.
I'd definitely say Mike Tyson was the toughest boss I had to fight. Like, really tough. There's a reason why we had him on our hardest bosses list. Yeah, the fact like one punch basically made you on the floor, it was like, yeah, there's a reason. Thanks, Nintendo.
Even using save states in later life, it took me 3 hours to defeat Mike Tyson purely because the first 90 seconds of the fight, every punch he throws is an instant knockdown, and after that, even though his punches aren't knockdown punches anymore, he still hits very hard, very quickly. The fact that I managed to get a TKO on that fight at all is nothing short of shocking.
Yeah, Mr. Sandman, because it was I hadn't gotten to Super Macho Man either. So yeah, Mr. Sandman was just incredibly difficult for me. I couldn't find the timing. I haven't been able to beat him yet.
It was so long ago that like I was just constantly getting knocked out, and so it was a struggle to try to find the next like fun boss or something like that, or like fun fighter and stuff like that. Yes, I have lost to Glass Joe plenty of times as the kid.
Nope, I never beat the game. Mike Tyson was the boss I just could not beat.
Oh yes, it took me like months to beat it because I had to get my butt kicked every time, every day after school, after homework. I would get right back into it, lose like 20 times a week, and then I would finally kick it in, and then I'd have to start over and then lose 20 more times a week, and then bam, I reach Mike Tyson, I get my ass kicked by him, and then like a month or maybe a year later, finally I knocked that sucker out.
No, I think I got pretty close to it.
Yeah, obviously no.
Hell no. What made Super Mario Bros. 3 different was just how well they stepped up everything. Yeah, it's what you wanted a sequel to be, which was expand everything, make everything better, and just like roll with the times. Okay, you've learned what was good about what you did, what was bad, and then just took all that and improved it and added stuff, and the soul is still there.
Super Mario Brothers 3, or any Super Mario Brothers game, for example, is so readable and understandable that you don't necessarily need to know how to read in order to play the game. Doesn't matter what language you speak, you're going to understand what's going on, how to play, and the game kind of guides you and pushes you in a way so that you are, essentially making the best decisions.
It's often considered one of the legendary Mario games because much like previous ones, you play as the Mario Brothers and you're going out to save the world again from the evil Bowser. Although, ironically, despite what people may think, you don't start out on a quest to save the princess. The princess is at home, perfectly happy, and during each level, at the end of each level, she sends you something to help you along the way. It's only after you beat level 7 that Bowser actually kidnaps Peach and you have to go and rescue her.
Yes, I did know about the Whoop Whistles. If you've seen the movie The Wizard, you know about the Whoop Whistles.
Yep. Those are flutes that you find in like specific parts of a level. Like behind the bushes of a platform, like you have to crouch on a platform and you fall through it, and you go to the back of the stage and you enter a special zone. When you use the flute in the map, you go to a level, kind of a level screen, but it's actually another map, which just travels you to the world you select.
Yeah, I found out about those while playing the initial game. I think they were actually a thing as far back as the original Super Mario game, but the infamous Minus World glitch as part of the original Super Mario. Found that I didn't really like them all that much. I felt that they kind of broke up the immersion and didn't give you a chance to explore and see everything that the game had to offer you, so I kind of preferred to just go through it the more conventional way, world to world, seeing everything that the game had to offer before you finally got to the end point, and I enjoyed it more that way.
Yes, I did. I do remember back in the day when I was actually playing this game, I learned about the warp whistle, and I actually tried hitting it. I even went to the exact spot where to get it, like with the Nuki suit, and unfortunately, like I couldn't exactly figure out how to reach it. Like I flew up there and I just couldn't really figure out where to go. So
I did, but not when I played them. Not when I played it originally. So when we played the game, I would actually try to get through the level the legit way, not warp whistling.
A whistle? Huh. I should have known about that.
Did you say the warp whistle? Maybe not when I was a kid, but more recently, definitely yes, I'd say.
And my worst world in the game has to be Ice World by far. Because of the slippery, sliding nature of the levels, you could accidentally slide off the level, and the enemies in this world are really irritating.
the reason Iceland is so hard, because you're constantly sliding everywhere. You cannot control yourself at all. Yeah, this is where I rage with the game. Like, yep, this is not working out.
I remember specifically the desert one with the suns and stuff being particularly the hardest level for me.
The desert one? Because I was very small, like a small child at the time, and the sun, like, it kind of scared me, because like he would like go like twist a bit and go and hit me and basically bully me for the entire level. I didn't like that.
I didn't like the desert too much. I didn't like the sand level. I don't know, it was just kind of like, I liked it, but it was probably the least favorite just because, just the way it looked, honestly. It was like, it's kind of bland, and it's like, I'm used to seeing all this beautiful color, and then you just get the sand. But don't get me wrong, I love desert levels in games, but this was like, you can only do so much with the palette you're working with when you're like, okay, do a desert level. And the enemies, yeah, pretty much.
I would definitely say that a water world was the worst during childhood.
Any of the water stages. I think anything that messes with the movement and makes it decidedly unfun is problematic. That and the side-scrolling stages. I like going at my own pace. You know, don't side-scroll.
I want to say Skyward.
I managed. There's a glitch in Super Mario Bros. 3 where if you're in the cloud level and you lose a certain amount of levels in a certain way, the airship will move off the map. And I managed to get that glitch once. And it soft locks your game. So can't get to the airship. Thus it makes it impossible to actually beat it without a warp whistle.
World 7, I would say. Pipe World. Because it had, not only were the world's quite difficult, or the stage quite difficult at that point, there's one stage that I hated to oblivion, and it's one where the entire stage was made up of a floor of plants that damaged you, and you had to get through the stage by picking up power stars, but it meant that you had to very rapidly get to the next power-up block to get another one. And if your star power ran out before you reached it, a star doesn't even come out.
My favorite power, I would say the frog suit, because it's a frog suit. Why wouldn't I like a frog suit? Yep, and I jump like a frog.
Tanuki suit, definitely. Specifically because you could fly, and flying was like the best form of transportation level.
Either the flower or the Tanuki. The Tanuki helped with getting around, and then the plant pretty much helped me get through with some of the enemies, but if I had to choose, maybe the Tanuki.
Tanuki. I really like that. I didn't even know, like, I didn't get the statue part. I was like, what is that? What am I looking at? Like, I remember when I discovered it. Yeah, I didn't realize that at first. I'm like, does it make me impervious to damage? What am I doing? What didn't make sense to me, because I'm like, why am I a statue?
I really like the Hammer Bros outfit.
The Hammer Brothers suit. Like, it was very rare, but it was also just really cool to me, like being able to throw the hammers around. I mean, the Tanuki suit took a close second on that with the statue power. But yeah, the Hammer Brothers suit was easily my favourite one.
Hammer Bros suit, because when you use that, you could actually do long range attack on enemies.
Probably the the hammer power up.
Yeah, I had to say Fireflower. Sorry, I was trying to remember if there was like any other ones, but nah, Fireflower. That stuff is powerful.
The normal Fireflower at this point, because it gets the job done.
Best power up, hello, Kiribo Shoe, by far. The fact you can just stomp around on any enemies and are impervious to, say, the munchers, it's best power up ever.
Starting off, the airship difficulty was fairly tame. As it started getting later, I think it's like about World 4 or 5 when it starts getting a little bit sadistic, especially when they have the screws you have to keep jumping on to make progress.
Actually, yeah, they were fairly difficult. Definitely not the most difficult levels, though. In my opinion, there is a world in the there's a level in the last world. This is after you defeat all the Koopalings, where it's much harder. It's where you're getting bombarded, you're being attacked by, you're jumping on these tanks, and I find that one harder than the Koopalings. I didn't have too much issue with airships, to be honest.
I didn't find them like really difficult, mostly because like I couldn't go as fast as I wanted because it was an automatic scroll level.
Oh, they were fun, but yeah, they sucked. Those things, oh man, they were hard.
They were difficult, yes, and they set me back plenty of times and have made me quite upset. This is again another case of trial and error, but it is one of the ones that punish you for the trial. Like, you can have trial and error, that doesn't make it any more easier because you still have to suffer through the initial like challenge of, okay, I died here, now let me go back, okay, now I died here. It's that process, but so many times through the level, and then it's absolutely crushing when you're actually doing it. Like, you manage to dodge everything, even when you've gone past your trial and error section, and you're like, oh my god, I'm doing it, I might actually, and then you die, and it's just like soul crushing at that point. And then you have to do the walk of shame. It's soul crushing.
Yeah, there is a really big difficulty spike when you get to like the airship levels, because it's all side-scrolling and you're fighting so many different Monty Moles, and there's bullet bills, I get confused, and the cannonballs, and then you have to fight one of the Koopa kids at the end, and you have to do all that in one go, and if you fail, you have to do all that again. It's kind of difficult, yeah.
I do remember the first time I played them, it was hard because there were lots of obstacles. Yeah, there were lots of obstacles to get through. Like, at first they were intimidating, but the more I played them, like, I basically got a feel for it.
I didn't even get to the dang airships. After this, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play Paper Mario.
Did you enjoy the video? Why not click the bell icon and subscribe to see more content from us at TatsTopVideos. And now let's see the creators of this video.